Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. So today we're looking at some brand new cards coming out of Rage of Volcano in Duel Links. It's the new mini box that's set for release on the 10th of December. We'll be covering the rares today. So this is one of the only Battling Boxer Exceeds monsters that isn't a number card. It's Battling Boxer Cheat Commissioner. It's a fire attribute warrior type Exceeds monster. It's rank 3 with 0 attack and 1300 defense, and it requires 2 level 3 monsters. All monsters your opponent controls must attack if able. While you control another Battling Boxer monster, your opponent cannot target this card for attacks. When an attack is declared involving another Battling Boxer monster you control, you can detach 2 Exceeds materials from this card, look at your opponent's hand, then set 1 spell card from their hand to your side of the field. So this actually forces all of your opponent's monsters to attack, which, depending on your situation, is not always a good thing. Sometimes it can be okay, but the stat lineup is really bad. That it does have the protection for itself if you've got other Battling Boxers on, so that's okay. But the thing is as well that you do have to sacrifice 2 Exceeds materials to then look at your opponent's hand. If they don't have a spell card in their hand to begin with, then you're out of luck. You've used those materials for no reason. It's gambling on your opponent having the cards accessible in their hands to begin with. Second, they have to be useful for you. If they're archetypal based ones, I don't know, if you look at some of the ones for, I don't know, Dragunity, how is that going to help a Battling Boxer deck when they have to be specifically for Dragunity? It's a big mess and could be a massive issue, all on the chance of maybe getting that one key card. So we have another number monster. This is number 19, Freezodom. This doesn't shock me either. If you've got number 61, it's very predictable you're going to have number 19. They worked as a bit of a tag team, so Volcasaurus would do all the damage and then Freezodom would kind of protect. That was how they worked in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zeal. It's a water attribute dinosaur type Exceeds monster with a rank 5 as well, 2000 attack and 2500 defense. It needs 2 level 5 monsters, and once per turn, if an Exceeds monster you control would activate an effect by detaching an Exceeds material, you can detach 1 Exceeds material from this card instead of one of those Exceeds materials. The point of using this card was during that duel, I think it was episode 11 or 12 in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zeal, I think it was a 2-parter. Volcasaurus would use all of its overlay units to use its burn effect, and then it wouldn't have any means of recovering those materials. Instead, it would then look to using Freezodoms to use its effects again to do as much damage as it could within the turn. It's very useful, and I can see it being played. Trouble is, because it's a rank 5, it's a little bit more difficult, especially since you only have 3 spaces in your monster zones. Next card is Larval Ignis. It's a fire attribute warrior type Exceeds monster with rank 3, 1800 attack and 1400 defense. It requires 2 level 3 monsters, and the effect is if this card attacks or is attacked during the damage step in either player's turn, you can detach 1 Exceeds material from this card once per battle. This card gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. Right, so this card just makes itself a 2300 beta. Regardless, your opponent's probably going to have something to deal with this. I mean, unless they don't read the card, they're not going to smack into this with a 1900 attack monster. They're going to be a little bit more clever than that. But this is it's a simple effect to understand, even for someone starting off the game, and since it's so battle-centric for its effect to activate, very easy to get it off the field before it actually finds any use. Still, it's for a rank 3, it's okay for the time being. This is Infernal Flame Vixen. It's a fire attribute pyro type Exceeds monster. It's a rank 4 with 2200 attack and 2000 defense. It requires 2 Pyro-type level 4 monsters, and once per turn you can detach 1 Exceeds material from this card. This card gains 500 attack until your opponent's end phase. When this card with 2500 or more attack is destroyed, target 3 monsters in any graveyards and banish those targets. Okay, so let's look at the weaknesses of this card first. Firstly, it's very specific. It does need pyro monsters to summon, and had it been just fire attribute, that's not so bad, but pyro is very specific, and so unless you're running that style of deck, and even if you are, your opponent is going to know that you're going to be running this. Saying that, I would consider that to be the main and only disadvantage of it. I think the soul release effect of this card is brilliant, because just by detaching one Xyz material, it gains the above 2,500 cap for it to use the secondary part of its effect, which banishes any monsters in either graveyard, so you can get rid of some of yours if you need to boost up other cards, or get rid of some of your opponents if it helps to prevent them from recovering those monsters. Key examples include Blue Eyes White Dragon, Red Eyes Black Dragon, and Dark Magician, because all of those have revival cards to work on that style of deck. I would say it's quite a simplistic effect as well, and the stat boost is only until your opponent's end phase, so it's lasting you a little over a turn. It's really potentially it's 2 turns, but it's a decent effect considering that the monster is level 4. Well, it's a rank 4. Battling Boxer Sparrow is a fire attribute warrior type level 4 with 1,200 attack and 1,400 defense. If you control a Battling Boxer monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If you do, you cannot conduct your battle phase for the rest of this turn. This is just about creating the initial amount of field advantage anyway, so you can go into your rank 4 plays. Other than that, it's a very simplistic design. It does cut out your battle phase, which means you're giving your opponent that much more time to set up against it, and they know what you're going to do, so potentially, depending on how you want to play it, either you can keep the monsters on the field, or you can Xyz summon and risk potentially losing all the cards you've got on your field. Battling Boxer Switchhitter is a fire attribute warrior type level 4 with 1,500 attack and 1,400 defense. The effect is, when this card is normal summoned, you can target one Battling Boxer monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. You cannot special summon any monsters during the turn you activate this effect, except Battling Boxer monsters. This is one of the more powerful of the Battling Boxer cards. Remember what I was saying about certain cards getting rid of some of your Battling Boxers into the graveyard? Well, this is the reason why you want them there. This is instantly able to revive one of those, then you can go into a rank 4 play. It does have to be a Battling Boxer monster that you special summon using this effect. And also if you're doing any further special summoning to Xyz summon. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, during that turn, it's a limitation in itself, but you can get over that. There's already a couple of them out there. You've got Cheat Commissioner, you've got Nova Kaiser, and I'm sure Comet Cestus will be released at some point when they start introducing some of the Barian Emperors, when Alito gets shown up. Battling Boxer Counterpunch is a fire attribute warrior type level 3 with 0 attack and 1,100 defense. Its effect is, during the damage step of either player's turn, when a Battling Boxer monster you control is attacking or being attacked, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard. That monster gains 1,000 attack until the end of this turn. You can only use this effect of Battling Boxer Counterpunch once per turn. Depending on what your opponent is playing, this can actually be a massive surprise to them. There are a couple of other cards that have similar effects. I think one of the Destiny Hero monsters gives your Destiny Heroes 600 attack, and I think it's all of them for that turn. But this is a higher amount of attack, and actually, depending on what your opponent is crashing into your monster, it can just surprise them. Even though you're having to get rid of a card to get rid of one of your opponent's cards, this surprise can be enough to stop them for the rest of the turn, especially since once they've ended their battle phase, they essentially end their turn anyway. That's just how Duel Links works. Battling Boxer Rabbit Puncher is a fire attribute warrior type level 3 with 800 attack and 1,000 defense. Its effect is, at the start of the damage step, if this card attacks a defense position monster, destroy that monster. This is quite a decent effect because if your opponent is playing defensively, this is always an option to get rid of them. You've got other decks as well that focus on things like Subterras, so this is an easy out to them. Outside of that, it being an 800 attack monster is not a threat, and I know it's essentially been built within the deck to bring out Cheat Commissioner, the Xyz monster. Battling Boxer Veil is a fire attribute warrior type level 4 with 0 attack and 1800 defense. Its effect is when you take battle damage, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, gain life points equal to the damage you took. This is another one of those quite unique cards that the Battling Boxers utilize. Its benefit is, firstly, so long as you don't lose as a result of the damage you take, you're instantly getting those life points back. The second thing is you get another monster on your field, which is a level 4. Easy, your next turn you go into a rank 4 Xyz play. Hazy Flame Griffin is a fire attribute winged beast level 6 with 200 attack and 2100 defense. The effect is if your opponent controls a monster and all the monsters, if any, on your side of the field and in your graveyard are fire attribute and only the fire attribute, you can special summon this card from your hand. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. This is like a Cyber Dragon style of effect because it does let you special summon this, and again, it has 2100 defense, the same as Cyber Dragon's attack. The problem I've got with this card is it's very specific for the fire attribute, so outside of that, you don't want to run this. The other thing is your opponent really going to bother targeting this card with card effects anyway? They will probably be able to get over this considering its lackluster attack stat. They could change the battle position of it. There are certain cards that do that. AD Changer is an example that's used heavily within synchro decks, and that uses its effect from the graveyard. There are alternative conditions. You can easily get over that style of monster. And even the Cyber Dragon itself, you've got some of the traps out there that can work to boost up the attack enough to just run over this card. Larval Judgement Lord is a fire attribute warrior type level 7 with 2700 attack and 1800 defense. Once per turn, you can banish one larval monster from your graveyard, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. Larval Judgement Lord cannot declare an attack the turn this effect is activated. Whilst this effect is really good, remember that with the burn effects, they're all halved, so this is only 500 points of damage now. But considering that the larval monsters, if there are any that you just don't need, or are concerned about what your opponent has, and you've got their life points down enough to almost assure your victory, this is always a way of, doing something about it. You compare this with things like Solar Flare Dragon, to do a little bit more burn damage, or a combination of burn and battle damage if that's where your focus is. Now, this is a card that actually the Hazy Flame archetype relies heavily on. This is Hazy Pillar. It's a continuous spell card with the effect you can normal summon Hazy Flame monsters for 1 less tribute. Once per turn, you can target one Xyz monster you control, attach one Hazy Flame monster from your hand or your side of the field to that Xyz monster as an Xyz material. Okay, so I'll tell you why this card is very good for the archetype, and the only reason you'd want to maybe, run the Hazy Flames is because of this card. First, they're all level 6. Having 1 less tribute means you're treating them like level 4 monsters. You just bring them out anyway. It's not an issue. You're not getting rid of anything. The second, for Battle Trice to get, which is the Xyz monster, by the way, if you want to see that, to get its full effect, it relies on having as many of those Xyz materials as possible. Now, essentially banking on trying to have 5 of your Hazy Flames on the field and Xyz summoning using them is not realistic. Yes, you can do it, and possibly there are ways of doing it, but it's not the simplest way. This effect is the easiest way. Just every turn you're just attaching more to provide that support is the way that kind of works for it. Of course, it starts off with 2, so it will take a minimum of 3 turns for you to gain the full effects of it. But, depending on how your style is, you might have ways of protecting it to minimize risks. And the final card is a counter card, Jolt Counter. Its effect is, during the battle phase, when a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated while you control a battling boxer monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. This is similar to something like Solemn Judgement, but it's archetype specific to the battling boxers. Because it has the highest speed attached to it, it means it can pretty much negate anything. Shutting down any type of card, whether it be spell, trap, or monster, and destroying it means that they can't use the effect at all, even if it has a destruction effect to it. And it removes a very easy threat to the battling boxers, something that a lot of decks don't have to their name.